Kerbal News, Year 28, Day 117, 2 hours and 13 minutes. The Kerbals are ready to return home with their plethora of Gile Booty. One last thing to do on Gile before the Kerbals return home is deploy the scanning arm. Now that there's plenty of battery power, we can truly see what's inside these rocks. Jebediah and Valentina working together once again to make docking a smooth process. They didn't even have to ditch the rover. You're coming home with me. It's time to say goodbye to Eve for the first time for the last time. Jebediah hits the throttle and off to Kerbin the Kerbals sail. The Kerbals are used to being marshmallows by now, as they fly into Kerbin's atmosphere directly over the Kerbal Space Center, ready for splashdown. Splashdown complete, the command capsule stays intact. All science aboard is safe and sound, and the Kerbals deserve a well-earned promotion. The boys back in the lab eagerly analyze the science and learn that there is just one last technology that avoids them, the Rapier engine. The Kerbals need one final mission to bring back the 1,000 science needed to unlock the Rapier engine. What will that mission be? Stay tuned to find out.
Hello again, ladies and gentlemen, Saka here, and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. When we last left off, we got a ton of science and filled out the tech tree, except for the aerospace tech, which costs 1,000 science. So the easiest way to do that is go to a system in which we've never been, and this rocket, I feel, is more than capable of going to the Jool system, and even our lander can land on Bop. So we are going to bop it and hopefully do some science on the surface and guarantee that 1,000 science to brought back. So it's the same rocket, the same crew, and we are going to head out to Jool. So I will see you for the launch. All right, our intrepid crew is ready to go. SAS on, full throttle, 3, 2, 1. We'll see you in a few years' time, guys. Could even be 20, who knows? But we are in our transfer window to Jool pretty much right away. I only had to wait maybe 15-20 days or something like that, so very fortuitous that we came back from Eve when we did, because they got a few months rest and they're right back at it as Kerbals do. You can't keep a good Kerbal away from space, that is for sure. So I will go ahead, you've seen this ascent before. We're going to carry on until we start to circularize, then we get the Weeble Wobbles, and then we can plan our transfer. So I'll try to get this thing up into orbit and see you soon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're in a 248 by 74 orbit. Everything went good on the first time. We have 928 meters a second left in this bottom stage before we get to this pusher stage and then our interplanetary stage. So everything is looking good. Let me head to our map screen, set Jool as our target, and we're going to be wanting to go prograde relative to Kerbin's orbit. So we're going to be really thrusting here at about our apoaps and heading outward. But let's go ahead and select Duna as our target, going further than, or Jool I mean. Set that as a target going out further than we've ever done before, and let's see what kind of Delta V we would need to get up there and get that maneuver started. So I will be right back. All right, so we have a 2,034 meter a second approach to Jool. You can see we'll encounter it in 2 years. It will use about half of our fuel on that bottom stage, and then we can go for broke as far as the next transfer stage window. So all we have to do is SAS on and then head to our maneuver node. Jebediah will make it so. Now we'll have, you know, this is factored in as far as a full speed burn, but we can't go full speed the way this rocket is rocking and rolling. So we'll have to probably start speeding up probably about now and just burn as we can, and as soon as we drop this big bottom tank off and fire that engine there, we'll be a lot more stable and can really apply the gas. But 2,000 meters a second isn't bad. That will leave us with, you know, a good bit left. And we basically just want to do a flyby of Jool, not too awful bad. I don't know if we want to land on Bop. That's going to be one question that we can ask once we get up there and have the fuel to do it. That's going to be the big question. So I will go ahead and start this maneuver and see you for the stage whenever that bottom section pops off and we can really hit the gas here. So I'll take it up nice and slow and then really go for broke and, you know, put the hammer down. So I will be right back. All right, staging coming up. Down to 60 meters a second left in that bottom tank, and skadoosh, away we go, full power. Light it up, and a minute 56. So we can actually afford to wait just a little bit on our maneuver node. So I will go ahead and complete that maneuver and be right back. All right, down to 100 meters a second left in this particular stage. There we go, and a little bit of cut. All right, 2.3, just finalizing this up until we can nail it, 0.210. All right, so SAS off, maneuver node cut. Do we have an encounter with Jool? That is in question. That is a good escape trajectory. And Jool, I mean, we might have to bring down our ascending node a bit. We're 1.3 degrees off, but that is close enough for government work. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and plot a course here at our ascending node, drop it down the 1.3 degrees, which shouldn't take much delta vape, and that should bring us in right over the top of Jool. So I will go ahead and leave Kerbal Sphere of Influence, get to the ascending node, and see you for the correction. All right, only a 16-second burn. We'll go at T-8, booyah! And that will still leave us with 200 meters a second in this particular stage before we even go nuclear. So that is feeling pretty good, especially if we can get our Jool encounter without even firing up that engine. I'll be feeling pretty good indeed. All right, just minor adjustments here, and 0.7, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, skadoosh. And our inclination should be dead on the money indeed, descending node 0. So we just have a little bit of cleaning up to do. Probably have to slow down a skosh to bring down our periapps here, or our apoapps, and get that encounter with Jool. There we go. So not too awful much. We only overcooked it just a skosh. So that is not bad at all, just 10 meters a second to get that Jool encounter. And then we can work on perhaps an aero brake into Jool's atmosphere. Once we get in the sphere of influence, of course, we'll do our high science, our low science, and then dip into Jool's upper atmosphere just like we did for Eve. Definitely not land, because that's a gas giant, and that would kill us very quickly. And I wonder if we'll run into any moons when we aero brake. That is going to be the question. Free science for all. But what I'll do is I will go ahead and give that 10.1 meter a second retrograde. As a matter of fact, we could probably just do it from here and eyeball it. SAS on, we will go retrograde and slow this bad boy down. Yeah, once we flip retrograde, we will very gingerly squeeze the throttle until we do see an approach. Like I said, 10 meters a second is not going to be bad at all to ensure that we get in Eve's sphere, or Jool's sphere of influence here. All right, just on the gas, just a skosh. And there we go, in Jool's sphere of influence. So yeah, now we're just going out to Jool. It's going to be a low pass by, it seems. We might be able to finagle with that approach just a bit. See if we can get, focus our view here. See if we can get that periapps a little bit closer. SAS on, retrograde. Indeed, we can pull that periapps right in, and we're on the mark as far as our inclination is concerned. What we want to do is come around it on the east side, if we can. There's all the lovely planets of the Jool system. And this is going to be very finicky, as Jool's gravitational pull is going to, like, yank us Yoink. Easy does it. And a 2 million meter periapse certainly isn't bad. And we can adjust that as we get captured. And it doesn't look like it's going to take much for us to get captured. So I may even turn on the little engines so we have a little bit of fine-tunedness, or I can just lower the thrust of our nuclear engine. So let me do some research. I think it's 100,000 for the atmosphere of Jool. So if we come in at, say, 95K, that will give us that brief moment where we're dipping in the atmosphere, but not too much to slow down. And we'll see what happens. So I'll F5 for safety and C for the approach. All right, ladies and gentlemen, where we are at, the sun isn't very bright. Maybe we should have took the RTG, but either way, there is Jool right here, right along the ecliptic. We are a few hours away from entering that sphere of influence, and as soon as we do, of course, we're going to hop on the good foot, do the bad thing, do the EVA reports, crew reports, pop all of the science experiments we can, and have old Bob the scientist reset them all and get ready for our close approach. Right now, we are at 199, I believe, on the periapse. Yeah, 199,689, and the atmosphere is 200K. I looked it up, so we will just barely be settling in. I may go a little bit deeper, like 195-ish, something like that, so we can spend just a little bit more time in the atmosphere to be sure to get all of the science done while we were in there. So yeah, about to cross into the sphere of influence. I will do the science and be right back. All right, the flip is real. We have successfully crossed into Jool's sphere of influence, and that's a world's first milestone. The first flyby of Jool, $100,000 for science and 8 reputation. That's 1/3 of our rocket paid for just by sitting here. But now it's time to do the stuff here. Let's go ahead and toggle the crew report for 60 science. We will hop out with Bob on EVA. And we will get EVA report, hit all the science up, and collect it. It should be a pretty good haul for the time being. Come on, Bob. Let me do the EVA report. Another 96 science. So slowly but surely, then it's just up to us to do all of these experiments. So take the data, store the data, and do all that good stuff. So we'll keep the science a secret. I'll just very quickly get all of the science here, and then that way when we land on Kerbin, it will be a surprise. So I'll get to it. I'll be right back. All right, science is collected. I adjusted the inclination just a little bit to sort of get some equatorial action, and we are at 175. Maybe 25,000 meters is too far down without blowing up. That's what F5 for safety is for. So I will keep on going until we get closer to Jool and start doing some low Jool science. Bob can swap out those science real quick and possibly see you for the re-entry of Jool. Just wanted to point out what we're looking at here. We're still not in space near Jool, even though this thing is, you know, really big and monstrositous. We're still 8,000 kilometers away, and we can see all the moons. We're trying to go to Bob. So once we complete our aerobrake capture here, we'll get on Bop's inclination and see if we might be able to make a landing with this little guy, but very picturesque here. I really like, I like this, this view right here. Really encompasses the grand scale of things. All right, we're under 4,000K, and now we're on space near Jool, and poor Bob. I mean, this thing fills up our view quite well, that is for sure. So let's go ahead and collect, take data, store data, and then do our science run and get ready for re-entry. So I will do that and be right back. All right, about to get into the Julian atmosphere here. We're not going to risk an EVA report outside of Jool. So as soon as we cross that 200 boundary right there, now we will crew report, get all the stuff from inside the atmosphere here. Probably no seismic data indeed, but we can get everything else. So I will be right back, and it's heating up. All right, some of the parts got a little hot. You can see them red right there, but we are leaving the atmosphere of Jool. Once again, we can extend our solar panels, and we just have to put on the brakes just a little bit. We started to wrap around, but could not complete the deorbit burn here. So there we go. We are captured with just a squeeze of the gas. Probably want to go a little bit more, say 1 billion meters. That way we can slow down, adjust our inclination to bop, and all that good stuff. So there we go. And we should still have, yes, 115 meters a second that once we get to our apoapse, we can raise our parry so we don't go dipping back into Jool. That would be very inconvenient indeed. We've got the science from just dipping in, and I'm pretty sure that's all you can get from Jool, as there is no surface. So we'll get on out to our apoapse and raise our parry, collect the science, and I'll be right back. All right, so we have a little bit of an interesting conundrum. I was at the maneuver node, and I was trying to adjust the inclination, and when I did, actually we ran into lathe, which is not where we're going to land, but if we can get a flyby of lathe, just take a look at it. You know, it's not going to affect us too awful much, except lower our periapse down to, or our apoapse down from, you know, astronomical numbers down to nearly nothing for only 35 meters a second. So that's certainly not bad. We can sightsee, we can take a look at lathe, and then adjust for bop as we go along. So things are looking up. I'll go ahead and do that maneuver and see you for lathe. Ladies and gentlemen, I decided not to get greedy, and we had a really good encounter. It was only a 20 meter a second burn to adjust my inclination from my apoapse, and there is bop. That is our destination. It's kind of like a ghillie, but we have 7.5 thrust to weight ratio on this particular lander at bop. So it would be ideal for us to go down, plop the lander down, see if there is any breaking ground science on it, and if not, we can just use this section to launch. We have 57 meters a second that we can burn. We're not going to worry about grabbing science as soon as we get into the sphere of influence. I mean, we've got 8 minutes essentially that we could possibly do it. So, I mean, we can. But my main goal is to get a periapse right here. We'll go ahead and add it and go completely retrograde and see what we need to do to get this done. It seems like a lot of delta V, if I'm honest. Wow. There it was, 2,000 meters a second. I guess it's because we're coming in at a funny angle. Essentially, if we wanted to stop, 2,000 meters a second is not going to do it. So we're coming across the orbit, you know, definitely 90 degrees. Ideally, what we would do is we would finagle our orbit just a little bit and come in a little bit smoother. So I guess we'll go ahead and get some science on this particular flyby. And we're right here, right now. So we'll get some science on the flyby, conserve our fuel, and plan for another bop approach. All right, we've got a bit of an inclination change here. We've got 57 meters a second left in this bottom stage. We'll go ahead and go for broke here. Turn on our nuclear engine. That gets cooked, and we'll go ahead and finish this burn out. So 3,300 meters a second in this particular stage to finish up our inclination change, and then we'll do some adjustments, see if we can get closer to bop. It'll be easier if we come in much shallower, that's for sure. If we can sort of line up our orbits to match bops with just a little bit of variation, we won't be coming in at no 2,000 meters a second difference. With the nuclear engine, though, it'll be a little bit tougher to plan ahead, but we've got the high efficiency burn going, so it shouldn't be too awful bad. So I will finagle around with the orbits a little bit and see if we can get an actual decent bop encounter. All right, we got a 201 meter a second burn at our apoapse. We're going to come around and intersect it a little bit better of an angle. We're going to be coming in this way, and bop is going to be going that way. Probably not 2,000 meters a second difference if I had to make a guess. So 200 meters a second is a whole lot cheaper than 2,000 for sure. So I will go ahead and get that maneuver done and see where we end up. All right, we've got about a 57 second burn 100 meters a second to slow down over this thing. It looks like our lander should come down on BOP fairly well in the grand scheme of things. It looks like we're over the pole. So we were going to rotate back around with our lander, get to the south side of BOP, and land about right here on the equator if we can. And as you can see, it's almost very much like Gilly, where our orbit speed is, you know, microscopic compared to what we would need on a much larger planetoid. So once this thing gets parked, I don't think we'll need all 1,000 meters a second of fuel to complete this maneuver and mission, and then we can refill our Jumbo Max with all the extra stuff. So there we go. Apoapс is coming down to 1.4 meters a second. Let's just gingerly slow down and see where that puts us. All right, so there we go. In a polar orbit, nearly polar, that is for sure, orbit of BOP. That's a world first milestone. Orbit of Jool, suborbital flight. So the rocket has paid for itself. Now all we need to do is detach our little guy and come down over the top. It almost looks like we're on the Terminator. So it really doesn't matter exactly where we touch down. We just want to be nice and flat, really. So all we have to do, let's see, rover legs are complete. Let's make sure that we keep one pilot on our capsule. So right now we got Valentina, Bill, and Bob, and Jebediah in the crew hatch. So let's go ahead and transfer over Bob into the lander so he can do all kinds of wonderful science while he's down there. And we can work on detaching. Outstanding. So decouple the node. Skadoosh. So we should start floating away here. Let's activate our engine. All right, just a squeeze of throttle, nothing too awful major. So 2,500 meters a second of delta V, it says. And then let's just get a little bit of rotation, decouple the node, and send that off into the wild blue yonder. All right, so essentially what we need to do is just go retrograde. Let's see how much speed we're going to need to drop. Yeah, 13 meters a second. I mean, that's not bad at all. Once we come down over here, we can really slow down. But as you can see, 36 meters a second is all we need to slow down. So Jebediah can go ahead and get on that maneuver node. We'll crack the throttle just a little bit. And the maneuver node is adjusting for sure. But it's only going to be an 8-second burn once we get there. So off we go, Valentina and Bill. We'll see you all in a minute. All right, ready for our 7-second burn here. Burn at 3.5. Away we go, and that's a little bit off balance, if you ask me. Not going to complain about that too awful much, though. And we will be coming over the top, as you can see. 27,000 meters, and then at Perry, we are just going to basically hit the brakes, come to a stop, and see where we end up on the surface. Maybe 100 meters a second or so. And it's going to be pretty rocky. That is for sure. So we're going to have to really mind our P's and Q's when we get there. But I will see you for that maneuver. All right, this looks like a smooth enough place as any. Let's go ahead and hit the gas, see if we can come down here. Try to land right here in this valley if we possibly can. It's going to be tenuous for sure. All right, landing gear down. We'll cut the throttle. And it looks like we're going to overshoot that valley a bit. We need to keep on burning then. Let's go retrograde and get down to, say, 70 meters a second for our orbit speed. Not sure where that will put us. A little bit better. Right now we have the radar altitude on, so we are indeed 13,000 meters over these hills. I don't want another ghillie to happen for sure, where as soon as we drop our little lander, it doesn't get any grip and all that good stuff. So we'll float down, see if there are any markings on the surface that we might be able to use this this scanning arm for. If not, we'll just keep the whole fuel thing attached and bring it back up with us. So I will see you for touchdown. All right, we have shadow. We're coming down at 15 meters a second and slowing, 500 meters above the surface. Looks like slow and steady. Hopefully we're coming over flat land. That is indeed going to be the biggest question. Can't really see the surface curves from the top. So as long as we're coming straight down, that is for sure. Whether or not we are going to land on a flat surface is another thing entirely. Down to 10 meters a second. Down to 7 meters a second. We'll scale down our thrust just a bit. 5 meters a second and 120 meters up. There's shadow. Solar panels are in good light, so we don't have to worry about that. We're slipping a little bit. There we go. 3 meters a second. 2 meters a second. Slow down the throttle just a bit. All right, increase it just a touch. We're hovering between 1 and 2 meters a second. One meter a second cut. Touchdown SAS off. Come on, stand up. Let her rest. Set her down. Booyah. Nice and easy. We have landed on Bop. So in the next episode, ladies and gentlemen, I believe we are going to maybe detach this little guy and see if there are any surface features. Just sort of cheesing it a bit, scrolling out, seeing if I can see any surface features. I can't, as far as the breaking ground stuff is concerned, so I don't see anything scannable on Bop, which means we're going to pump everything that we can into our main engines here. And as we make the ascent, we will continue to do the same and then just ditch this guy once we get up there for maximum efficiency. So that will do it for me in this episode, ladies and gentlemen. Next time, Bob and Jebediah will get out and conduct science on Bop. But another successful landing, for sure. Wait, what are you doing? SAS on. And just settle down, man. We might need to rotate the craft just a skosh. There. Yeah, I gave it a pivot, and now it seems fairly well planted. Cool. So that will do it for me. Like, share, and subscribe if you are so bold. Thank you so much for tuning in, and Bob and Jebediah will see you next time for the finale of Kerbal Space Program. Yeah, I feel you, Bob. We're here. Take care.